Good thing I checked. Man. All right, so let me know about the audio in the chat. My system is once again freaking out, but I'm sure by now all of you have heard about the Olympics and the outrage on the part of the Christians, and I just felt compelled to jump on and kind of talk about the obvious insanity of the situation on so many levels, because it's something that really hits home for me personally. And it's kind of ironic, last night I was talking about the importance of the reemergence of the mysteries. And then I see this today, you know, the feeling that it was a deliberate mockery of Jesus. The reality is that according to Da Vinci himself, the Last Supper was based on the Dionysian Bacchanalia, which was a 2 to 3 day feast, orgy, intoxication, dance, songs, no sleep. So, I mean, I'm sure I don't even have to explain this to you. The irony of a group of people that are constantly complaining about being persecuted for their beliefs. And also in the United States, a couple of years ago, when they were tearing down the Confederate statues and whatnot, and they were saying, you know, how dare you erase our history? They have, in their religion, stolen and repurposed the Feast of Dionysus, for example, Christmas, you know, on and on. We'll get into all of it. But, I mean, it's difficult to even explain, but for them to complain about being persecuted for their beliefs and having their history, you know, erased, and then to, you know, be outraged because an event that started in ancient Greece chose to display art that depicted the beliefs of the people from that time period when the Olympics began. And then adding insult to injury, they've actually stolen these things. I mean, talk about cultural appropriation at its absolute most insane. I mean, it's mind-boggling to watch this. And it doesn't end there, of course. You know, Dionysus was blue because he represented the blue planet, the Earth. He was killed, and then he was reborn. Sound familiar? And then Zeus, his father, used lightning bolts to burn the people like hell that had offended his son. Denied Jesus go to hell. Right? This stuff couldn't be laid out. Hold on, let me look at the chat. Let's see, audio good. What's going on, guys? Oh no, 2 horizontal streams. Man, that's lame. Well, I'll just leave it for now. But before we get any further into this, oh wait, I should mention also, even the water into wine thing was a reference to Dionysus. And, you know, I talk about this a lot on this channel. But one of the great evils of Christianity, it's genius, but it's also one of the greatest tragedies that has befallen the planet. Because the reason that they took these things and integrated them into Christianity wasn't just because they wanted the pagans and the mystery initiates to accept Christianity, that they you know, retain the holidays and a lot of the practices and the myths even. The truths that lie behind these allegorical fables were also integrated and distorted in such a way that Christianity functions to encourage a sheep-like, blind faith, whereas the pagan mysteries and the Eleusinian mysteries were designed to actually catalyze changes in the spirit, in the consciousness, and to encourage intellectual development. So they didn't just borrow these things. They borrowed them and then deliberately inverted them in order to use them, basically to weaponize them against the Christians. And just give me a second, I want to pull my Patreon up because I want to thank Stephen Stavrids and, just a second, guys. Where is it? Notifications, sorry. Stephen Stavridis, sounds Greek, ironically. Oh no, there were a bunch more. I don't know why I'm not seeing them. Here we go. Stavridis, definitely Greek. That's awesome. That's just incredibly awesome, the synchronicity of that. Angel G, Greg Fritz. I could have sworn it was another Maria. Thank you guys so much for becoming patrons. We absolutely love you for that. Okay, so yeah, and then just to consider the fact that these Christians are constantly complaining about being persecuted. Do they not understand why? So let's talk a little bit about what Christianity really is. Christ is based on Christos, which is not a person. It's a spiritual fire similar to the Kundalini. One of the most unbelievable examples of magic or mysticism that's demonstrable comes from the Kabbalah, which is generally integrated into these mysteries. The letter Shin represents the spiritual fire, and the Tetragrammaton is 4 letters that conceal the unspeakable name of God. And the reason it's unspeakable, according to the Hebrew belief system, the Kabbalistic system, is that if you made the same vibration that started the universe, it would meet it and it would cause an interference that would blow up the universe. So ironically, it's the reason we don't say 4-letter words, that they're curse words. This is it. But the ridiculous thing about it is that the Tetragrammaton does not conceal a 4-letter word. It's 4 letters that conceal a 72-letter name. So it's insanely silly. But if you take the letter Shin, each of the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton represent one of the 4 elements, as well as a bunch of other stuff. But if you take this sh sound, sh, and you place it in the center of the Tetragrammaton, the spiritual fire, now in the elements, it becomes Yoshua, Hebrew for Savior. So the 4 elements are animated and redeemed by this Christos, right? So this is an illustration of how the Roman Consulate, when they created Christianity, they did these things deliberately because people resonate with the truth. And so they veiled it in myth. And for a long time, I'm almost embarrassed again that this didn't quite, settle into my awareness faster. But I always wondered, especially after I was initiated into the mysteries and I had studied this stuff for a long time, how did they get adepts of the mysteries to betray their oath and humanity, maybe even God, by creating this perverse distortion? I mean, what greater blasphemy can you imagine than creating a religion that is designed to actually ensure that people do not actually have spiritual experience? But I got the answer the other day. I was reading about archons, and I discovered that there were magistrates, according to Albert Pike, the 33rd degree sovereign commander of the southern jurisdiction of the United States of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry around the time of the Civil War. He mentioned that these magistrates infiltrated the mysteries. And the ones that did it in Rome, the title was Archon Basilius. And in Gnosticism, the archons are these beings that interfere when people start to get close to divine secrets. And so it hit me. It wasn't adepts of the mysteries that betrayed everyone. It was spies that infiltrated the mysteries. And that's how they had the knowledge to construct Christianity with all these thinly veiled truths. And so we've talked about how, Dionysus, the Last Supper, that's Jesus mocking Dionysus. Another thing I should mention is that there are some scholars and, I don't want to say adepts, but reputable people that know their stuff that think that mushrooms may have been part of the mystery tradition. So it occurred to me that Dionysus may have been blue as well, to make an allusion to that. But then let's go through a little bit more of analysis of the allegories of Christianity. First of all, the fact that Jesus is an allegory for the sun could not be more obvious. He literally says at one point, "I am the light of this world." He walks on water just as sunlight is reflected on water. The sun spends 3 days traversing the constellation of the Southern Cross, just as Jesus is said to have spent 3 days on the cross. He also spent 3 days in the tomb. If you guys watched my stream last night, you probably remember me pointing out that the circumambulations are 3 in the temple. Hermes, thrice greatest, third eye. So this thing of 3 is also extracted from the mysteries. And that actually kind of points to why these mystery teachings were so powerful. They were not making up arbitrary dogmas. These were not stories. They were based on a universal process and actual truth. 3 days, the Southern Cross. The sun stops moving for 3 days in December. 3 days in the tomb. The constant, death and resurrection of the sun. It couldn't be more blatant and obvious. So, this isn't going to be a long stream. Excuse me. Partly because today is Jerry Garcia's birthday, and the Grateful Dead is extraordinarily important to me. So I need to practice for Friday's stream, where I'm going to play their music, and I need time for that. But one thing that wanted to make sure that I mention during the stream. Again, ironic that I just said this last night, but the Christians seem to think that there are evil forces on this planet that are trying to eradicate Christianity. And it's unfortunate that people don't understand psychology and propaganda. Because last night I said that, you know, the reemergence of the knowledge that was conferred to initiates in the mysteries is the most powerful tool of liberation. It is the restoration of the sovereign divine dignity of humanity. And the fact that the consequence of this scandal, I guess, you know, in the eyes of Christians, has already resulted in the removal of the, I think they took the videos down of the opening ceremony, and they're already making promises, you know, that basically add up to suppressing the mysteries, to guaranteeing that we will not be confronted with this imagery again. So, you know, the conspiracy theorist in me is thinking that this is a further effort at suppressing this knowledge. And the fact that this moment it's so critical and so vital and so important that it re-enters the collective awareness. That's what I think the real purpose of it is. You know, they are ensuring that there's a public backlash and that it's demonized even further, and that humanity will be kept in the dark. Yeah, and I know, you know, I'm a little bit sputtery tonight, but, you know, I want to convey that the reason for that is that this is all legitimately upsetting and frustrating to me. It's really kind of a shock and a major disappointment for me to have to realize, you know, 20 years ago I thought we would be moving beyond this, and that this new consciousness was emerging at such a rate that, you know, in 2000, for example, gosh, I wish I had some water. Pear juice. You know, I think a lot of us back then had very high hopes that humanity was turning the corner, you know, and I guess we should have known, and I was concerned, of course, that the overlords would do everything they could to curtail it, to maintain their control. And here we are, with people being pitted against each other over trivial issues. Oh, thank you, my love. And so deeply entrenched in their politics and their religion that conversation is, you know, dialogue is not even possible. People just put their heads in the sand. There's no amount of explicit evidence that will convince someone that is determined not to be convinced. And so, you know, it's infinitely frustrating to watch this, and I'm embarrassed for them, honestly. You know, I mean, it might sound like almost like hate or something, and it's not. I do understand that they have just been conditioned, and it's not their fault, you know. So I sympathize to a degree. But can you imagine protesting? There are protests in France and other places that the Olympics made a mockery of your God when it was literally a depiction of a pre-Christian deity that Christ was largely based on in the first, you know what I mean? It's, if they knew, can you imagine if they knew the truth, how dumb they would feel? The Olympics started in ancient Greece. These images that have made all these people so upset, depict the beliefs of the Greeks from that period that were hijacked by the Roman Consulate and turned into their religion. I mean, you guys know the Christmas tree, pagan tradition. The solstices, Easter. I think it's Ostara, where the pagans hid the Easter eggs. And the bunny was a symbol of fertility, and it was a spring ritual. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling. Making a mockery of our composite myth, God. Speaking of the Roman Consulate, in case you guys aren't aware of this, one of the reasons that we know that the Roman Consulate was behind it, there were papers that were dug up by, I think his name was Roman Atwill, in 2013, like minutes from the meetings of the Roman Consulate where they, discussed the necessity. And one of the great ironies of it is that it was a Palestinian tribe. One of the main reasons they did this was the Palestinians, because they were expecting a warrior Messiah, and they wanted them to be pacifists. So they wanted to replace that warrior Messiah with a pacifist. The what do they call him? There's the flock of the lamb. But the Roman Consulate, when they created the story, they used the military campaign of Titus as the blueprint for it. So Jesus' ministry, where he went, the order of it, every single stop in order, is based on the military campaign of Titus. Who would do that? But the, minions of an empire. That in and of itself should be enough to tell you what happened and why. Military campaign of Titus. And it's interesting because if you actually read the Bible as if you don't know anything about it, you know what I mean? Wipe your slate clean and read it as if you don't know what it is. It very obviously tells the story of a false Messiah coming to deceive the people. It's plain as day. Right after, I think it was Paul, one of the apostles, warned, Satan may come as an angel of light. Never minding that Hasatan is not a person or a being in the Hebrew rendering. It's a title. In the original Hebrew, it's used for King David, I think 26 times, Solomon a few times, and a couple of other people. Hasatan, adversary, stumbling block, It has three actual definitions: adversary, stumbling block, and a third. I don't recall. But Satan may come as an angel of light. Jesus shows up like 45 pages later saying, I have been sent by my Father who is God, making him an angel, and I am the light. It seems to me that any reasonably sane person would go, whoa, whoa, whoa. We were just warned about this. The first commandment, you shall have no other gods before me. There's no caveat until my Son comes. The second commandment, graven images, likenesses, pictures of Jesus, blasphemy. If you believe that he's God and you're trying to follow the 10 commandments. So, in my opinion, they deliberately put people in a position to have to break the first 2 commandments, even to pledge allegiance to this Messiah. Let him who hath understanding count the number of a man, right? And if it's 666, this is the Antichrist. In gematria, if you multiply a number by 9, because 9 is the number of truth, right? Because 9 times 9 is 81, 8 plus 1 is 9. Any multiple, no matter how big, if you add it all together, it's 9. The truth is always the truth. So, Jesus Christ, Messiah, and serpent all come to 666 when multiplied by 9 in Hebrew gematria. We are told to beware a wolf in sheep's clothing, and they call Jesus the Lamb. It's a bit odd. I come to divide mother against child, brother against brother. They think I come to bring peace, but I come to bring the sword. And then there's the fact that Lucifer actually only appears in the Bible twice. And in reality, in the original Bible, in the original Hebrew, it doesn't appear at all. The line is Bin Hillel Shachar, Howl, son of morning. Nothing to do with light bearer. Not light bearer. It's not light bearer. It's not nothing to do with it. Some people say that there was a Babylonian king named Lucifer, and that's what they were demonizing. But it is the author of Ezekiel, I can't remember his name, had a political opponent known as Saint Lucifer. And that's probably all it was. He was just demonizing his political opponent. But Lucifer is not even a thing in the original Bible. But as the King James Bible is written, it comes up twice. Once in Ezekiel, how hast thou fallen from heaven, bright and shining morning star, or whatever, which is actually Hesperus in Greek. So even morning star doesn't quite, none of this really adds up. But that's the line. And then in Revelation, Jesus comes back and he says, I am the bright and shining morning star. Wait a minute. You and Lucifer are the same person? What the fuck is going on here? And then if we consider Jesus' own words in the Bible, judge a man not by his intention, but by the fruits of his labor. Okay. There have been more deaths, indirectly or directly, caused by Christianity than all of the dictators in human history combined and all of the natural disasters. And then if you consider the oppression of the individual ability to express, the restriction of freedom, the torture, genocide of entire cultures. If Satan is the evilest being on earth, by Jesus' own metric, he is the evilest influence in human history. Yeah. So, and I'm sure there's no one out there that I have to tell that the virgin birth, even on December 25th, I can't remember if it was, I think it was the Mayans, but one of the Central or South American, either Mayan, Aztec. Uh-oh, what happened? Looks like my internet is a little bit funky. But one of them actually, it was even the same day. Isis and Osiris. The virgin birth is ubiquitous because it's an allegory for a natural process. You know, you guys know all this. You know all this. And I guess, you know, it's almost beating a dead horse at this point because I know people are aware of these things. But the frustration, watching the manipulation, and the inability of people to see the obvious. And it is personal because I grew up in the Deep South and I saw it as a child. You know, I knew as like a second grader, I was out on the recess, you know, playing soccer or whatever. And I told one of the other kids, this girl, that I wasn't Christian. And she said, well, then you're a devil worshiper. And I was like, no, I don't believe in the entire religion. So, and she said, no. My daddy says that if you don't believe in Jesus, that makes you a devil worshiper. You know, I got jumped because I wasn't Christian. Numerous times. I watched, you know, kids when people found out they were gay, beat them up because they're Christian. So when I see them crying about their beliefs causing them to be persecuted, after literally having to fight groups of people, you know, getting jumped because I didn't share their views, especially in the context of them being offended by the reemergence of the, you know, just art based on the beliefs of the people that they subjugated and stole their religion from. It's just, it's almost too much to watch. And it's heartbreaking because the consequence of it is the loss of the realization of the full potential of literally millions of people. Science was set back 200 years. Galileo spent his life on house arrest for saying that the earth went around the sun, you know. I think, you know, I know it was Copernicus that really put that forth, but I'm pretty sure that's what Galileo was accused of heresy for as well. And here's a really poignant point that I can make based on that. The mystery traditions. Dionysus was, you know, there was the mysteries of Dionysus was one of them. Fundamentally, what was taught in these mystery schools is the exact same thing that is taught in South American shamanism and in any system that is legitimate. As Albert Pike said, the true scripture is writ large upon the land for those who can see it. some author, I can't remember her name. I should Google it because she deserves recognition for this. I just keep forgetting. That all that is metaphor. The Pythagorean Illuminati describe it as the veil, as like a Fourier transform that translates the ideal into the actual. So, really, Copernicus and Galileo were pointing out that the fundamental thing of importance is spirituality. Earth revolves around the sun, the source of the light that gives us our consciousness. And he was put on house arrest for the rest of his life. This is not a denial of God. This is a recognition of the reality that the physical world is a reflection of the divine blueprint that lies behind our experience. Checking in with the chat. Yeah, From the Light of the Darkness is from, what part of Virginia are you in? I grew up in Fairfax and lived in Fredericksburg for a while. Oh, in Richmond. You know, I actually knew Guar a little bit, which was crazy because I was a huge fan, starting in like 7th or 8th grade. And my friend, Martin, who wandered out in front of a semi and exploded shortly after introducing me to Guar, called me one day when I was like a 19-year-old drug dealer, and he said that I need a quarter pound of weed and a couple of 8-balls, and I was way up in Spotsylvania, it's an hour and a half to Richmond, but he's like, no man, you got to come, trust me, we'll pay you extra. So I go down there, and it's this big house, and there's these guys sitting around, and we sit down and talk for a while. And then Martin says, hey, why don't you go down to the end of the hallway, and there's a closet on the right. And I went down and opened it up, and there's Odorous Orungus, his alien costume. And it hit me that I was in Odorous's house. So, yeah, that was a hell of a moment. Oh, yeah, he brings up a good point. Of course, isn't the offensiveness brought up by the fact that he's trans? Here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. Dionysus was gender fluid. And you might say, well, isn't it kind of a weird coincidence that that's such a hot button issue right now? So what? So what? You cannot complain about people suppressing your history and persecuting you for your beliefs and then get mad when there is art that accurately depicts the beliefs of the people from the time when the Olympics were started. It absolutely makes sense that art was there. Dionysus was bisexual and gender fluid. And the reality is, and I had this conversation with somebody that is very much LGBTQ left, far left as you can get. I think I saw her in the chat, actually. And I asked her, you support me and never seem mad, even though I will occasionally criticize things like kids getting gender reassignment surgery. And, I grew up in gay DC for a while, or at least I was there for a few years in my late teens, and I was very much immersed in gay culture. I, many times after a night of, drugs and alcohol, passed out 17 years old in bed with one of my 40-year-old gay friends, and none of them ever did anything. You know, so you can't accuse me of being homophobic. That's just, but I also mentioned that I had never known a trans person that wasn't nuts. You know, like, and also I you know, she had agreed basically, and also I asked her if she agreed with me about kids getting gender reassignment, you know, at 5 or whatever, and she's like, no, that's completely fucking insane, basically. You know, so what I'm getting at here is that while I acknowledge that the narratives have gone, you know, people are going too far, way too far. At the same time, though, I think that's driven by the overlords. They are trying to abolish the left in order to consolidate power under one party, and it's not going to be the left. They've been, in the United States, they've been after the left forever. You know, so they're the ones driving that. And historically, you know, and I mean like prehistoric cultures, you know, like the Native Americans in the United States, there were 5 sexes. And the people that were male and female were revered as divine. And I guarantee you, they were not weirdos, you know. Gender is on a spectrum. Sex is not. But all of you have known men that are almost completely feminine. They might even be straight. Because the universe is a manifestation of light. And light is a nearly infinite spectrum. So everything works that way. There is a possibility fulfilled at every point along the spectrum of possibilities. So there is some, you know, I don't know if I can say the word that's coming to mind, but a very masculine, completely masculine woman at one end of the spectrum, and then a 100% feminine at the other end, and then every possibility in between is fulfilled. You know, and that's nature. So it puts us in a really difficult position to try to sort this out, because we have the propaganda machine distorting things and provoking people to be absurd and even evil. But at the same time, in reality, there are people that are non-binary. You know, way back in 1914, in the introduction to the Book of the Law, Aleister Crowley said that one of the ways we would be able to tell that the new aeon had officially commenced is that people would become more epicene and bisexual. Epicene literally means non-binary. So it's a difficult thing, you know, and that's the obligation of the free-thinking person, to not be influenced and swayed by the propaganda, but to see the realities that lie behind it. You know, not to have knee-jerk reactions, but to take a moment, to take a deep breath, and think analytically and realistically and objectively to come to the truth. And something about that just reminded me of another point I wanted to make about the reason why Christianity was created in the first place. It wasn't just about disempowering the pagans and creating a passive, sheep-like flock that was easier to manage. Consolidation under one flag. Think about that, and then consider what I was saying about how they are the real purpose of the chaostrophe, particularly in the United States right now, is to demonize the left and consolidate into one party. It's the same game that the Roman Empire was playing all these years ago. So, That's the truth, like it or not. I think I've said just about all I can say about this subject tonight. I guess I can give a few more minutes to see if there are any questions in the chat. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, consider becoming a patron. We are demonetized. Let me read the chat and see if there's anything I can address. Let me check the other chat. Okay, so any questions before I sign off? Otherwise, please hit the like button, share, subscribe, become a patron. What's up, Alpha Draconian? And that's, in terms of something positive, I can say, words of encouragement. The truth is there. This whole journey for me basically started as a small child. I was convinced that, I knew all the religions were distortions and fabrications, but I felt like we could kind of know the truth. There are limits to what we can know. But we can come to, reasonably likely, you know what I mean? Like the most likely thing based on experience and observation of nature and all that. And I think it's proven true. So for any person that is earnest and committed and determined, if you study the physical world and observe the physical world, and you are vigilant in suspending the influence of cultural convention and provisional programming, the truth is actually laid bare right in front of you. It is incredible to me that the overlords have managed to create the perception that illumination is such a lofty thing that only a few people attain to it. Of course, it's on a spectrum. But if you are determined and you put in the work, you can transcend all of it. And even if we can't save the world and we can't extricate our fellow man from the morass of politics and religion and delusion and confusion, you can at least have the satisfaction of looking God in the face every day, all day, and having a dialogue with the universe and experiencing this for yourself. I say this all the time, but I'm quite convinced that one of the main reasons that the overlords are putting so much effort into distracting and agitating, shaking the ant farm. If you put black ants and red ants in a single ant farm, they will not kill each other until someone shakes it. Then they'll start fighting. But they're doing this just because the veil has become so thin. It's so easy. All the information is available to us. We have psychedelics and plant medicine. We have like this Masonic tome here that is full of ancient secrets that are legitimate. You can buy it on Amazon now. Aleister Crowley, too, in the Book of Lies, chapter 69, The Way to Suck Seed and the Way to Suck Eggs. After he published it, 2 33rd degree Freemasons that had broken off from the main body of the lodge came and knocked on his door And they said, "How dare you print our secrets?" And he said, "I have not taken your oath." And they were so blown away by that they made him the head of the outer order on the spot and gave him the title Baphomet. But what does that tell you? And the secret is the key to unlocking the meaning of the entire symbolism of the Western occult tradition and the secrets of the mysteries. We have access to everything at this point. We have the tools. We have the experience. We can look back at the mistakes and the failures of the boomer generation and, you know, those that came before them. We have history as a teacher. For us as individuals, we have one of the most amazing opportunities that has ever been available, certainly with this level of ease to this number of people. So, you know, for me, that's kind of my goal right now, is to like be a little bit less concerned with what the herd is doing and whether or not we can communicate with them, and to just focus on the fact that there's nothing stopping me from going all the way. And the same is true for each and every one of you. So, unless there's some comments here. Okay, so that is it and that is all. Thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. Please consider becoming a patron, hit the like button, share, subscribe. We still have some room in August and September at the retreats. So if you're interested in that, shoot me an email before it's too late. And I will see you guys again probably the day after tomorrow.